How does the Stotram reflect the values of gratitude and humility in worship? The Stotram encourages devotees to adopt a posture of gratitude and humility in their worship of Annapurna. It acknowledges that everything, including food and wealth, comes from her divine grace. By constantly bowing to her and expressing thanks, the devotee reinforces a deep sense of humility and appreciation for the blessings they have received. This attitude fosters an environment of contentment where one realizes that material wealth is a temporary gift and true happiness comes from spiritual wisdom and divine love. How does the verse Tvam hi Devi Annapurna highlight Annapurna's divine role? The verse Tvam hi Devi Annapurna translates to You are indeed the goddess Annapurna. This line reaffirms Annapurna's divine nature as the supreme goddess who is the source of all food, sustenance, and prosperity. By acknowledging her as a goddess, the hymn establishes that she is not merely a human figure but a cosmic force that provides for the entire universe. Her role as Annapurna signifies that she is the motherly force behind all creation, nourishing all beings with her divine gifts. What spiritual lessons can be derived from the Annapurna Sutram? Gratitude and humility, recognizing that all sustenance comes from the divine's balance. It emphasizes that both material and spiritual nourishment are essential for a fulfilled life. By surrendering to the Annapurna, a devotee invites divine grace, ensuring prosperity and spiritual well being, trusting that Annapurna's grace will protect one from misfortune, viewing food as a divine offering, sacred and to be appreciated with reverence. What does the constant repetition of Jaya in the Stotram signify? The constant repetition of Jaya, meaning victory, signifies the triumph of Annapurna's divine qualities. It is an expression of reverence and celebration, proclaiming her as the supreme guide goddess who ensures victory in all aspects of life, be it material wealth, spiritual progress, or protection from the adversities. By chanting Jaya, devotee acknowledge her supreme power and seek her blessings for success and fulfillment in their lives. What does the phrase Jaya Jaya Annapurna imply in the hymn? Jaya Jaya Annapurna translates to victory to Annapurna. This phrase is an expression of victory and reverence towards the goddess. It signifies a triumph of divine grace and emphasizes the belief that through her blessings, all challenges in life can be overcome. The repetition of Jaya also reinforces the devotion and faith of the devotee in her eternal protection and care. How does the Stotram describe the goddess Annapurna as a provider of both material and spiritual wealth? The hymn portrays Annapurna as the ultimate source of nourishment not only for the physical body but also for the soul. She is invoked as the one who provides food or annam, which symbolizes the material sustenance that allows life to thrive. But beyond this, she is also described as the one who bestows spiritual wisdom and inner peace, leading her devotees toward both material prosperity and spiritual fulfillment. Her blessings provide a holistic sense of well being. What is the significance of calling Annapurna Bhavani in the Stotram? Bhavani is the name of the goddess that reflects her role as the creator and sustainer of the universe. The term Bhavani signifies that she is not only the mother of sustenance Annapurna, but also the mother of all life and creation. By calling her Bhavani, the hymn acknowledges her role as the divine source of both the physical and metaphysical aspects of life, reinforcing her nurturing and protective nature. How does the Stotram emphasize the importance of divine nourishment for the soul? The Stotram teaches that nourishment is not just for the body but also for the soul. While Annapurna is celebrated as a provider of food, her grace goes beyond mere sustenance. The hymn reminds devotees that food, when offered to her, becomes a spiritual offering that nourishes the soul. The spiritual nourishment she provides comes through her blessings of wisdom, guidance, and inner peace, which lead the devotee toward enlightenment and salvation. How does and what does the repetition of Annapurna throughout the hymn signify? The repetitive chanting of Annapurna throughout the hymn highlights her importance and supremacy as a divine mother who nourishes and sustains all beings. Repetition in spiritual text serves as a form of invocation and meditation, allowing the devotee to deepen their connection to the goddess by repeatedly calling her name. The hymn expresses devotion and reverence and invokes her presence and blessings in the devotee's life. Why is Annapurna associated with prosperity in the hymn? Annapurna is associated with the prosperity because she is the goddess who provides food and sustenance to all beings. Since food is essential for life and growth, Annapurna's provision of nourishment is seen as the basis for material prosperity. The hymn acknowledges that true wealth is not just monetary but also encompasses well being, health, and spiritual fulfillment. Her blessings extend beyond physical sustenance to include mental clarity and spiritual enrichment, resulting in a life of total prosperity. How does the stotram reflect the relationship between the devotee and Annapurna? The stotram portrays the relationship between the devotee and Annapurna as one of a mother and child. Annapurna, as a divine mother, is depicted as a nurturer and protector of her children, the devotees. She provides the necessary nourishment for both the body and the soul. The devotee, in turn, expresses gratitude, humility, and devotion, acknowledging that they are wholly dependent on her grace for the survival and spiritual well being. This relationship is characterized by surrender, love, and trust. How does Annapurna serve as a symbol of divine feminine energy? Annapurna embodies the divine feminine energy through her role as the giver of life, nurturer, and protector. She represents the qualities of compassion, generosity, and love, all fundamental aspects of the divine feminine principle. In her role as the goddess of food and sustenance, she symbolizes the creative force that gives birth to life and sustains it. Her ability to provide for both the physical and spiritual aspects of life makes her a symbol of the unconditional and nurturing nature of the feminine divine. What spiritual practice does the Annapurna Stotram encourage? The Annapurna Stotram encourages a daily practice of devotion, gratitude, and surrender. Devotees are urged to offer prayers and praises to Annapurna regularly, acknowledging her blessings in every aspect of life. The Stotram encourages one to view food and sustenance as sacred offerings to be consumed with reverence and appreciation. Through her and through this practice, the devotee cultivates a deep sense of gratitude for the gifts of the goddess and invites prosperity and spiritual growth into their life. How does the stotram relate to food to spiritual progress? The stotram underscores the connection between food and spiritual progress. Food is not seen merely as a physical need, but as a divine gift that nourishes both the body and the soul. Annapurna, as a provider of food, is also seen as the provider of spiritual nourishment, symbolizing the link between material sustenance and spiritual fulfillment. By offering food to Annapurna with devotion, the devotee purifies their heart and mind, aligning themselves with divine grace and enabling progress on their spiritual path. How does Annapurna's grace help in overcoming difficulties in life? The Stotram emphasizes that Annapurna's grace is a source of protection and strength during times of difficulty. As a goddess who provides for all beings, she is believed to remove poverty, hunger, and suffering from the lives of their devotees. Her grace ensures that the devotee is shielded from hardship and blessed with abundance. Her nurturing nature provides the devotee with the strength to ensure and endure challenges, and her blessings lead to eventual success and peace. What does the mention of Bhaktavatsala mean in the hymn? Bhaktavatsala refers to Annapurna's deep affection and care for her devotees. It means that she is extremely compassionate and shows great love and concern for those who worship her. This term emphasizes that Annapurna's devotional relationship with her followers is not just one of reverence but also one of personal attachment and nurturing care. She is not an abstract deity but a motherly figure who actively seeks the well being of her devotees. What lessons about contentment can be derived from the Annapurna Stotram? The Stotram teaches that contentment comes from gratitude and devotion. By acknowledging Annapurna's blessings and viewing every meal as a divine gift, the devotee learns to appreciate what they have no matter how little. The hymn encourages the devotee to be thankful for the nourishment received and to cultivate a sense of satisfaction with life's offerings. This attitude of contentment helps one achieve inner peace and reduces the tendency to constantly seek more material wealth. How does Annapurna's role as a provider relate to her role as a teacher? As a provider of food, Annapurna also plays the role of a spiritual teacher. She not only nourishes the body but also imparts wisdom, guiding the devotee towards a life of balance, spiritual awakening, and fulfillment. Her grace helps the devotee to understand the deeper meanings of life, the importance of humility, and the true essence of nourishment, which is not just physical but also spiritual. As a teacher, she ensures that her devotees are equipped with the wisdom to navigate both the material and spiritual realms. How does a stotram portray the goddess Annapurna as the essence of divine abundance? The stotram portrays Annapurna as the essence of divine abundance because she is the source of all sustenance and prosperity. Her role as the goddess of food symbolizes the abundance is not limited to material wealth, but extends to spiritual well being, emotional fulfillment, and inner peace. By invoking Annapurna, the devotee seeks to experience the fullness of life where both material needs and spiritual growth are harmoniously fulfilled. What does the phrase Shiva Shakti refer to in the Annapurna Stotram? Shiva Shakti refers to the combined divine energies of Shiva and Shakti. Shiva represents the consciousness and the static aspect of the life, while Shakti represents the dynamic power or energy that brings life into manifestation. In the context of Annapurna, she embodies the Shakti or energy of the divine, showing that the creator goddess Annapurna is both the nourisher and sustainer of life. By invoking her as Shiva Shakti, the Stotram highlights her integral connection with the entire cosmic process of creation, preservation, and destruction. How does Annapurna's divine nourishment help transcend material desires? The hymn emphasizes that by receiving Annapurna's blessings, devotees not only attain material abundance but also spiritual enlightenment. Her divine nourishment helps shift the focus from the temporary nature of worldly desires to the eternal nature of spiritual fulfillment. She nurtures the soul, fostering a sense of contentment that goes beyond material accumulation. Our presence in the devotees' life encourages them to seek the nourishment of the soul rather than the fleeting satisfaction of physical cravings, leading to a more balanced and spiritually aligned life. Why is Annapurna associated with both food and knowledge? Annapurna is seen as the goddess of both material nourishment, food, and spiritual nourishment or knowledge. While she sustains the body with physical food, she also nourishes the mind and soul with wisdom and guidance in the stotram. Her role as giver of knowledge is highlighted through the acknowledgement that true prosperity is not just physical, but also intellectual and spiritual. She provides both the means for survival and the wisdom for enlightenment, making her a deity of holistic fulfillment. How does the Stotram address the need for both material and spiritual fulfillment? The Stotram integrates the idea that a true devotee must seek both material prosperity and spiritual growth. Annapurna, as a goddess of nourishment, represents the balance between material needs and spiritual aspirations. She is called upon not only to provide food for the body but also to bless with wisdom, leading the devotee towards both worldly success and spiritual liberation. The Stotram emphasizes that fulfilling both aspects of life is essential for achieving holistic happiness. What does Annapurna's role as a giver of food symbolize in a larger sense? Annapurna's role as a giver of food symbolizes more than just the physical act of feeding. It represents her ability to provide for all beings, ensuring nourishment and sustenance for life. In a larger sense, it symbolizes the divine ability to ensure the continuity of creation and the well being of all living beings. Her ability to provide for the body, mind, and soul reflects the holistic aspect of the universe where all life is nurtured through divine grace. What is the significance of the term Annapurna itself? The term Annapurna is a combination of two Sanskrit words, Anna meaning food or grain, and Purna meaning full or complete. Thus, Annapurna literally means the one who is full of food or the one who provides complete nourishment. This reflects her role as a goddess who fulfills the essential needs of her devotees, not just for survival but also for spiritual growth. The name Annapurna underscores her ability to provide abundance in every form, physical, mental, and spiritual. So, how does the Stotram emphasize the importance of offering food to Annapurna? The Stotram emphasizes the act of offering food to Annapurna is not just a ritual but a means to invoke her divine grace and ensure spiritual purity. By offering food to the goddess, the devotee recognizes the sacredness of nourishment and gives thanks for the blessings of sustenance. This act of selfless offering is believed to purify the mind and heart, leading the devotee towards spiritual growth. It's a reminder that all sustenance, whether physical or spiritual, comes from the divine, and expressing gratitude for it is an essential practice. Why is Annapurna often depicted as seated with a bowl of food in her hands? Annapurna is often depicted holding a bowl of food in her hands to symbolize her role as a provider of nourishment. The bowl represents the provision of sustenance, and a gesture of holding it signifies her readiness to offer divine grace and nourishment to those who seek her blessings. This depiction highlights her caring and nurturing nature, showing that she is always present to provide for the well being of her devotees. Her appearance with the bowl of food symbolizes abundance, generosity, and the eternal supply that she offers to the world. How does the Stotram address the relationship between the human and the divine? The Stotram establishes a deep connection between the human devotee and the divine goddess Annapurna. It highlights the concept of surrender and devotion, where the devotee humbly acknowledges their dependence on the divine for sustenance. The hymn teaches that true peace comes from understanding that we are part of a larger cosmic system where the divine, in the form of Annapurna, provides for all beings. It encourages the devotee to offer gratitude and seek divine help in their journey towards spiritual and material fulfillment. How does the Stotram emphasize the goddess as both a protector and provider? The Stotram portrays Annapurna as both a protector and a provider. As a provider, she ensures that all beings are nourished, and as a protector, she shields them from hunger, poverty, and suffering. Her grace is invoked to remove difficulties and hardships from the devotee's life, ensuring that they are not deprived of the basic needs for survival. The Stotram teaches that Annapurna's protection is an essential part of her divine nurturing, ensuring the well being of her devotees in all aspects of life. How does the hymn encourage a balanced life? The hymn encourages a balanced life by showing that Annapurna not only provides for physical sustenance but also guides her devotees towards spiritual fulfillment. It teaches the importance of gratitude, contentment, and devotion, all of which are key to living a life that is both materially and spiritually prosperous. By invoking Annapurna's blessings, the devotee is reminded that a balanced life requires the nourishment of both body and soul. The Stotram calls for the devotee to embrace both the material and spiritual aspects of life in a harmonious manner. How is the concept of selfless giving conveyed in the Annapurna Stotram? The Annapurna Stotram conveys the concept of selfless giving by emphasizing that Annapurna, despite being the goddess of abundance, offers everything freely to her devotees without expecting anything in return. This reflects the divine principle of selfless service and nurturing love, where the act of giving is not done for our personal gain but for the well being of others. The hymn encourages devotees to also practice selfless giving in their lives, offering gratitude, love, and service without attachment for expectation or reward. What is the significance of the term Purna in Annapurna's name? The term Purna in Annapurna's name means complete or full. It signifies that Annapurna is the goddess of complete nourishment, both physically and spiritually. She is the one who is fully capable of providing for all needs and filling the devotee's life with abundance in all aspects, material, mental, and spiritual. Her name reflects the idea that she is the ultimate source of fulfillment, making the devotee whole in every sense. How does Annapurna's depiction as a giver of food relate to her divine nature? Annapurna's role as a giver of food illustrates her as a compassionate and nurturing mother figure, emphasizing that food represents life and sustenance. In her divine form, she provides not only physical nourishment but also spiritual and emotional sustenance. The act of offering food in her honor symbolizes the deep connection to the divine, where her grace ensures the well being of all beings and the continuity of life. As a goddess of abundance, she embodies the sustenance required for both physical survival and spiritual nourishment. How does the Stotram suggest about seeking Annapurna's blessings in times of difficulty? The Stotram encourages devotees to turn to Annapurna during times of difficulty, especially when faced with material deprivation or spiritual struggles. As a goddess of nourishment and abundance, she is believed to be able to remove poverty, misery, and spiritual ignorance. The hymn emphasizes that by seeking her blessings, the devotee can attain prosperity, peace of mind, and spiritual fulfillment, making her a source of both material support and spiritual growth. How does the concept of renunciation relate to Annapurna's blessings in the Stotram? The Stotram indirectly speaks to the concept of renunciation through the idea that Annapurna provides the nourishment in abundance, but the devotee should not become attached to worldly desires. Annapurna's blessings are meant to be appreciated and used with gratitude and moderation. The hymn teaches that true fulfillment comes from understanding that while material wealth is important, it should not lead to attachment. The goddess encourages a life of balance, enjoying the material world without being enslaved by it, thus promoting the concept of detachment while still receiving her blessings. How does the Annapurna Stotram portray the relationship between food and spirituality? The Stotram emphasizes that food, in its divine form, is closely connected to spirituality. Annapurna, as the goddess of nourishment, is seen as providing divine sustenance for the body and soul. In this context, food is not just a physical necessity, but also a spiritual offering. By receiving food from Annapurna, devotees are reminded of the divine nature of sustenance, understanding that each meal is a blessing from the goddess. The hymn suggests that food, when offered with gratitude, becomes a spiritual experience, linking the material world to the divine. How is Annapurna connected to the cosmic order in the Stotram? Annapurna is depicted as an essential part of the cosmic order because she sustains and nourishes all living beings. Her role goes beyond mere material provision. She is intricately linked to the cycle of creation and preservation in the universe by providing nourishment. She ensures a continuity of life, and through her grace, she supports the balance of the natural world. Her power as Annapurna, the goddess of food, is seen as the driving force behind the cosmic cycle of birth, survival, and ultimately liberation. What does the Stotram teach about the concept of gratitude in relation to Annapurna? The Stotram teaches that gratitude is essential in one's relationship with the Annapurna. The hymn encourages devotees to thank and acknowledge the blessings of both material wealth and spiritual guidance by recognizing that everything, whether physical sustenance or intellectual growth, comes from Annapurna. The devotee cultivates an attitude of thankfulness and humility. This practice of gratitude brings the devotee closer to the divine, aligning them with Annapurna's qualities of selflessness, generosity, and nourishment. How does the Stotram view the concept of abundance beyond material wealth? The Stotram broadens the concept of abundance to encompass not only material wealth but also spiritual wisdom and inner peace. Annapurna's blessings are not confined to physical nourishment, they extend to the spiritual nourishment of the soul, guiding the devotee towards enlightenment. This hymn emphasizes that true abundance lies in the balance of material wealth and spiritual contentment. And Annapurna's grace provides both aspects in harmony. Abundance is viewed as the fulfillment of all needs, physical, mental, and spiritual, leading the devotee to a life of holistic prosperity. How does Annapurna's symbolism relate to the balance of materialism and spirituality? Annapurna's symbolism reflects the balance between material and spiritual needs. She provides nourishment for the body, but she also offers wisdom for the soul. Her role in the Stotram suggests that spiritual fulfillment is just as important as material prosperity, and both should be pursued in harmony. Annapurna teaches that the material world should be embraced with gratitude, while the spiritual world should be thought and sought with devotion. The hymn emphasizes the importance of moderation in material pursuits and the necessity of nurturing the soul for overall fulfillment. Why is Annapurna often depicted as seated with a plate of food? Annapurna is often depicted seated with a plate of food to represent her role as the giver of sustenance. The plate symbolizes the abundance that she offers to her devotees, ensuring that they are nourished in every way. This depiction serves as a reminder that divine grace is available to all, and the food she offers represents the blessings that support not only physical life but also the nourishment needed for spiritual growth. The plate of food is a symbol of generosity, highlighting her role as a divine nurturer. What does the stotram convey about the sacredness of food? The stotram conveys that food is not just a material necessity, but a sacred offering to the divine. The food that Annapurna provides is considered pure and filled with divine energy. Offering food to Annapurna or consuming food with gratitude is seen as an act of spiritual reverence. The Stotram teaches that food should be treated with respect and gratitude, as it is a manifestation of divine blessings that sustain both the body and the soul. In this way, food becomes a means of connecting to the divine and an essential part of spiritual practice. How does the Stotram highlight the role of Annapurna in providing for all living beings? The Stotram highlights that Annapurna is the universal provider for all living beings, ensuring that no one is ever deprived of the essentials for survival, whether it is food, shelter, or wisdom. Annapurna is the source of all forms of nourishment. The hymn emphasizes that her divine grace is available to everyone, irrespective of their status or background, and that she provides not just material support but also the spiritual guidance needed to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. How does the Annapurna Stotram connect the physical and metaphysical realms? The Annapurna Stotram beautifully connects the physical and metaphysical realms by portraying Annapurna as both the provider of physical nourishment of food and the giver of spiritual wisdom. The food she provides sustains the body, while her spiritual blessings elevate the soul. The hymn emphasizes that the physical and spiritual realms are interdependent, and by honoring Annapurna, one can find harmony in both areas. She bridges the gap between the material world and the spiritual domain, showing that divine sustenance is required for both earthly survival and spiritual ascension. What does the Stotram say about the role of Annapurna in dispelling poverty? The Stotram highlights that Annapurna is not only the provider of physical food, but also the one who dispels poverty in all forms by invoking her blessings. A devotee can overcome not only material poverty but also spiritual emptiness. The hymn calls upon her to eliminate lack of resources and fulfill the needs of her devotees, ensuring that they are provided for in abundance. Annapurna's grace is believed to bring prosperity, wealth, and spiritual contentment, offering both material and spiritual nourishment. Why is Annapurna worshipped during times of scarcity or famine? Annapurna is worshipped during times of scarcity or famine because she is considered the ultimate source of food and nourishment. When resources are scarce, her blessings are believed to restore abundance and bring relief. By seeking her grace, devotees believe that she will provide sustenance in the form of food, wealth, and prosperity, ensuring the community's survival and well being. Her worship during such times is seen as a direct call to her to alleviate suffering and bring spiritual and material prosperity. How does the Annapurna Stotram promote the importance of offering food to the needy? The Stotram underscores the idea that food in its divine form should be treated as sacred and is meant to be shared with others. By offering food to those in need, devotees honor Annapurna's role as a provider of sustenance for all beings. The act of sharing food is seen as an act of devotion and compassion, reflecting the goddess's qualities of selflessness and nurturance. The Stotram teaches that when food is given to the poor and hungry, it becomes a spiritual offering to the goddess and an act of fulfilling her divine purpose on earth. How does the Annapurna Stotram reflect on the relationship between humanity and nature? The Stotram reflects a deep interconnection between humanity and nature, as Annapurna represents not just the nourishment of humans, but the nourishment of all beings in the natural world. She is seen as the goddess who sustains life by ensuring that there is an abundant supply of food in the environment. The hymn encourages devotees to view nature as a sacred source of nourishment, with all living beings being sustained by her divine grace. The relationship between humanity and nature is thus one of mutual dependence, where humanity's well being is intrinsically tied to the health of nature. What does the Annapurna Stotram say about gratitude for food? The Stotram emphasizes that food should be received with gratitude as it is a divine blessing from Annapurna herself. The hymn teaches that every meal is an opportunity to express thankfulness for the sustenance provided by the goddess. By acknowledging the food as a sacred gift, the devotee develops a sense of humility and appreciation for the abundance that Annapurna bestows. The sense of gratitude extends to all aspects of life, teaching that all forms of nourishment, whether material or spiritual, are to be embraced with a thankfulness and humility. How is Annapurna connected to other deities in Hinduism according to the Stotram? According to the Stotram, Annapurna is closely connected with other deities in the Hindu pantheon, particularly Lord Shiva. In many versions of her myth, Annapurna is considered the consort of Lord Shiva, and together they represent a cosmic balance of creation and nourishment. While Shiva represents destruction and the transcendence of worldly attachments, Annapurna provides the sustenance necessary for life and creation. The Stotram portrays the partnership as complementary, with Annapurna's blessings supporting the physical world and Shiva providing the spiritual wisdom to transcend it. What role does Annapurna play in promoting spiritual contentment? In the Stotram, Annapurna plays a significant role in promoting spiritual contentment by offering not only physical nourishment but also spiritual fulfillment. The Stotram emphasizes that material wealth alone is not sufficient for true happiness. It is the spiritual contentment derived from divine blessings that leads to lasting peace. Annapurna is portrayed as a goddess who ensures that her devotee have a sense of contentment and peace not just in the material world but also in their inner spiritual life. Her blessings enable the devotee to overcome mental and emotional turmoil and find true peace. How does the Stotram address the concept of self sufficiency and reliance on Annapurna? The Stotram suggests that while self sufficiency is important. True reliance on Annapurna's grace is what ultimately leads to fulfillment. The hymn encourages devotees to make efforts in their lives but also to recognize that it is the divine blessing of Annapurna that makes true prosperity possible. Self reliance is not seen in isolation but as part of a divine partnership where Annapurna's support ensures success through devotion and gratitude. Devotees are reminded that their efforts are sustained by the goddess's grace, leading to both material success and spiritual growth. What is the significance of the sacred food or prasad offered to Annapurna in the Stotram? The sacred food or prasad offered to Annapurna is considered a direct blessing from the goddess. The food offered is imbued with her divine energy, and consuming it is believed to bring spiritual purity and well being. In the Stotram, it is suggested that prasad is a way to connect with the divine as it transforms a simple food into a sacred offering. The act of partaking in prasad symbolizes the union of the devotee with the divine, ensuring both physical nourishment and spiritual elevation. How does the Stotram view Annapurna's power over the forces of nature? The Stotram portrays Annapurna as having control over the forces of nature, especially in the area of agriculture, rain, and fertility of the land. As a goddess who provides food, her power is seen as essential to the fertility of the earth and the growth of crops. The hymn suggests that abundance in nature and the prosperity of the land are directly linked to her divine blessings. By worshipping Annapurna, devotee invoke her to ensure natural harmony and an abundant harvest, which reflects her power over the elements that sustain life. What lesson does the Annapurna Sutram teach regarding selflessness in serving others? The Sutram teaches that selflessness is a key virtue that reflects the divine qualities of Annapurna. The goddess is depicted as offering food and nourishment to all beings without expecting anything in return. Her grace is shared freely with all. This selfless giving is a model for devotees, teaching them that to share their resources, be they material or spiritual, with others. The act of serving without expectation of reward is central to Annapurna's teachings and is considered a path to both personal fulfillment and spiritual growth. How is the concept of divine protection linked to Annapurna's blessings in the Stotram? The Stotram links the concept of divine protection to Annapurna's role as a nurturer and protector of all beings by providing nourishment and ensuring prosperity. Annapurna shields her devotees from the dangers of starvation, poverty, and misfortune. This hymn emphasizes that her divine blessings offer protection not just from material deprivation but also from spiritual ignorance. She is seen as a mother figure who ensures the safety and well being of her devotees, offering both physical protection and spiritual guidance, said Jagradev.